Welcome to Don's Two Cents podcast that brings you cutting edge insights for government contractors. I'm your host, Ton Wilson, and today we're exploring how to maximize Microsoft Teams and SharePoint in the GovCon industry. Joining us today is Therman Trotman, a renowned expert in leveraging Microsoft solutions for government contractors. He has years of experience in implementing these technologies. Thurman is here to share his best practices, innovative solutions, and future trends that can give your contracting business a competitive edge. Welcome, Thurman, to joining our show here today. It's so good to see you again.
What's up, Todd? How you doing? My apologies. Um, Thanks for having me. I am the number one thing that I'm very excited about is that you also love SharePoint. When we met and you found out that I, sometimes go by the moniker Mr. SharePoint, and you were like, "We love SharePoint. We use SharePoint." I'm like, "Yes, I love that." You know what I mean? I'm always excited when
And
I
I
hear that.
love that it's in your name too. It's like Mr. SharePoint. It's like you should coin it if SharePoint were to allow you to do that.
Yeah. It was presented to me by other people who know about branding. I'm still learning about branding. They presented it to me, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? It seems weird. It feels weird. But after enough pushing and prodding, I was like, you know what? I'll give it a shot. And then after doing it, it worked. Like people remember that very easily. So I'm like, you know what? I'll keep doing it. It's
Yeah,
fine. It works. I like it.
absolutely. I'm so glad there's someone else out there that talks more about SharePoint and Teams than I do. So now I don't sound like a broken record. Um, Happy to share that
Okay.
with you. But, anyways, seriously, in all
Mhm.
seriousness, before we get too serious, I do want to talk about a fun topic. And I always like to get to know my guest a little bit more. And I feel like in our interactions, I do know you so well, but I really don't. So, if you were to have dinner with a historical figure in the tech world, and there's so many cool people, who would it be and why?
So a specific person, I can't pick a specific person. There's like multiple. There's people who used technology before it became like commonplace. You know what I mean? Like when I'm always fascinated by people who are able to quote see the future.
Mhm.
So it's like, how did you like the folks who built the airplane,
Did you?
right? The brothers. How how did you think that you could put something together that would make humans fly? Where are you
Mhm.
coming up with that? We literally can't fly. We only walk around. So how did you think you could put together a contraption that could make it where we can get up in the air and stay in the air, kind of like a
Yeah.
bird, literally like a bird, for an extended period of time? I think that type of stuff is extremely fascinating to me because I think I'm a forward thinker. I think I'm optimistic, but a lot of times I need multiple things to spark what might look a little bit more clearer of a future to me. But am I sitting around thinking, "Oh man, we should come up with airplanes"? No. I'm saying I'm more like right now how, prolific is we have AI, like how AI is like all in everywhere. That's when I could come up with the idea of, ooh, we could do these cool things with AI. But before seeing what AI could do, I was not sitting around thinking artificial intelligence. Check this out. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it would be someone who had the vision. That's why I would sit down with them because I want to know where you even getting this from? Where's that coming up?
Yeah,
How do you
and I
do
think
that?
the interesting thing about that too is how many people told them you are batshit crazy, right? Like that's just never going to
Yes.
happen. Or, um, and that's why I kind of think when I have this idea to do whatever and I bounce it out there, the people who come back with, I don't know if you want to do that, or that's kind of risky. It's because they say that that makes me even want to like prove them wrong. It makes me want to even try harder.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm a little bit different there where the if someone comes to me and they're like, I don't know about that, that is very, very it takes a lot for that to like throw me off and make me be like, yeah, I don't know. Like in other words, them questioning me won't make me question me. The only thing that's gonna make me question me is if I'm like, wait a minute, I don't know, that doesn't make any sense because I learned a long time ago that when people do that, it's not really
About
about
them.
you. It's
Yep.
more so about them. You know what I'm saying? Where like if I say I want to do these things, this extravagant thing, and then they go, "What? You that's crazy. You can't do that." If they have done the thing or they are in that arena and have a lot of experience with that, I
Mhm,
will listen to their words. But if they're just an outsider of this world that I'm
mhm.
talking about, it'll go in one ear, out the other, and I'll be very respectful about that. I'll just be like, well, I mean, okay, cool. You know what I'm saying? I'm still gonna try it.
My husband
So
calls my husband
I
calls
don't
those
know.
people non-entities, and so there's a lot of non-entities out there. So, yeah, keep doing what
Mhm.
you're doing. I think it's fantastic.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. So let's just dive into it because again, this is a topic that you and I can talk about for hours. So we're going to try to restrain ourselves and
Okay.
stay within the time frame that we have. But, like in our first
Yeah, yeah.
segment, we're going to talk about enhancing collaboration and communications, which I think is the whole reason why I think Teams and SharePoint have really stood the test of time and has really become the standard for what we consider effective quality collaboration and communication tools. But specifically, how have these two technologies and applications improved our ability to communicate and collaborate in the GovCon space? And do you have some examples of how these features might be used typically in the government contracting scenario?
Yeah. So unfortunately, we had
Yeah,
COVID. And I say that unfortunately because obviously all of the negative things that came of it. But some other things happened because of that. And one of them was we were told to, we were on lockdown. And because we were on lockdown, it accelerated the use of things like Teams, which is which allows us to work virtually, basically. You know what I mean? And because of that, that gave a space, a virtual space for us who are working remote to be able to collaborate and use the same resources and chat with each other and just really interact in a way that before that the communication tool was email. So email is still a communication tool but not in real time the way Teams works. So again, COVID, unfortunate. What happened is it accelerated the use of Teams, but that also had some ups and downs. It went so fast that it was like we don't even have time to speaking of building planes, we don't have time to worry about these little things. We have to build the plane while we're trying to fly it type thing. So implementing policy to me is a pretty big deal because I think Teams it has a lot of moving pieces, and one of the ways you can get in between the moving pieces and the end user is policies or education or training, that
yeah,
type of stuff. And it was so new. It was so new to the people using it, and it was so new to the people administrating it that it was a lot of. I'm gonna stay positive here, but it was a lot of challenges. There were a lot of challenges. You know what I'm saying? So the thing that Teams allows us to do is collaborate in a way that wasn't easily done before in the government space. For government civilians. But once we got over that hump, the first couple years after COVID or whatever, once we started to get into the groove of using things like Teams and Teams started to, get better, then training increased, education got better, end users found the better experience. So all these things were getting better. Now, for a specific use, people use Teams all day, every day. So it's not even like I can't even stand here and say something that's super unique. But for the people out there who don't have Teams at their organization, let's just say whoever you are, what Teams does is give you the ease of use to collaborate. And as soon as you create a Microsoft team, you have what I consider it looks like
yeah,
social media. So the same way you go and chat on social media and like post a thread, and then people could comment on the thread, and people can share pictures, and people can provide links on that thread or make memes on the thread. Like all of that, that's what you do inside of the communication area of Teams. Then right next to that, there's a file library that you can put all kinds of files in there, pictures, Word docs, PDFs, whatever. It doesn't matter. Put all of your files in there. So any use you can think of where you collaborate in that environment, that's what you can do with Teams. But specifically, I'm going to take people over to SharePoint, because one other thing that you get when you create a team is a SharePoint site. And I feel like any and everybody who creates a team will highly likely have to use
Mhm.
the SharePoint site too. And you can use that to host all of your resources for that
Yeah.
project or effort or whatever it is.
Well, you went there. I can't believe you did this because this is like the bane of my existence is when I talk about Teams and they're like, "Well, we only use SharePoint." I'm like, "Oh dear God." Like they didn't. I'm gonna have to explain that Teams sits on SharePoint and that they're similar but different. And I don't even go into like how the sausage is made. So I'm just like, let me
Hmm.
just, give you the basics. But you're right. I think I talk a lot about this too. Is during COVID, I didn't talk about COVID. I didn't talk about the issues with COVID or like the it itself. To me, COVID did not exist because we were so into Teams already and online collaboration with SharePoint and everything that when we had to turn that switch, it was seamless for us. And so a lot of our clients were already kind of there. And then we had to kind of bring everybody with us who hadn't already, like seen the greatness of like Teams. But COVID was kind of the great
Mm,
equalizer, right? Like now all of a sudden everybody was on the same page. We had to collaborate. We had to find other ways of doing that. And you're right. It was a lot of, bootstrapping, and we're gonna, just kind of like get on for get on sake, and like and everything like that. That unfortunately, companies didn't have like a really good governance plan or a structure or an explanation of
hmm,
thou shalt use email for formal communications, for things that need to be documented.
hmm.
But for the most part, if we're just doing this and we're just needing to get answers, it's so much more effective to use Teams because now I don't have
Right.
to figure out where was that email, who was on there. If I miss someone, someone can sit there and read it at their leisure, and things like that.
Hmm.
Whereas before, if you got left off on an email, well, that's SOL for you, right? It's like it would take you
Right.
probably like days to figure out that you were left off on the email. Which, yeah,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
pace is so much faster now, which I love.
Which is the way that we live
Yeah.
our lives. I guarantee all of the people that were introduced to Teams while at work, 98% of them, I'm sure, use social media, probably Facebook. And that's literally the way Facebook works. You make a post, add some pictures if you feel like, or some links or whatever, and people will comment on your post.